Hello, welcome to today's update video. Today, you might remember I had last time I just basically finished putting all the track links after getting the hull puttied up and contoured. So now you can see I've got a coat of paint. Now I don't know if some of you may have seen update photo I posted or photos I posted up on like the Bolt Action Facebook page and stuff like that, where I had basically done the base coating and the base coating of the track links on the outside, it's the armor, and I didn't like the way they turned out. So this is actually even subsequent to those photos. So let's kind of take a look at what's what on this particular tank. So back out a little bit. I've got this here for reference later, but here is the tank fully base coated. I initially went through with a strictly just a German gray for the track links. In fact, the entire track, like it said here, was German gray. None of these on the turret, or you can see most of the whole face, are not painted anything except for the olive. What is it called? Actually, violet brown. That's violet brown is a good representation of the U.S. Olive drab that these tanks came painted in. My original attempt at using German gray on here and then kind of dry brushing, highlighting with bolt gunmetal. Sorry, not bolt gunmetal. Gunmetal did not look good at all. So what I did is I decided to go back and mix 50-50 German gray and gunmetal. Mix the two of those and apply the base coat. Now, in the process, I did a lot of learning. I also did the tools in the back. One of the things that's interesting is the tracks themselves. There's some differences. Now, you can't tell it on this particular model because the model has been basically cast with a certain track type that the Shermans used. The T56E1 as opposed to the T48. Matter of fact, this tank should, if I can reference the photo itself, you'd be able to, I'll show up the photo here in a second. Take a close look at the tracks that are on the vehicle itself and notice how wide and thick the chevrons are, and compare that to the chevrons on these side armored tracks. Take a look. Okay, so you see these are much wider. Now the reason for that is there are two different types of tracks. These are T48s, and that are on the bottom. These are a rubber plate that is on the shoe itself. It's got metal on either side pinning it together, so it's it's durable. Actually a lighter track than a solid steel track. But obviously you're not going to want to use rubber as armor, so the rubber ones never made it up onto the hull. So the hull are actually the T56 E1s that were welded and hung on the tank itself. So to reflect that, I went back and touched up the paint here on the black here. Made sure I tried to take off any of the shine that I dry brushed onto the tread itself, and then went over the side with the violet brown. That was done because the tracks themselves were not left bare steel when they were installed. They had a little bit of color to them. Okay, so I mimicked that here. Now you're not going to see that brown violet very much longer. It really is going to end up being covered as I go through the weathering step later with the airbrush. But that's a ways off. I wanted to have a nice base coat so that it's a little bit more even when you compare the hull to the track link assembly. Now for the rest of it though, I used the mix of the gray, German gray with the gunmetal to get sort of a bright black, if you will, to give it a basic steel base coat. Now this is definitely nowhere near done. I still have to do the actual coats. There is not as much weathering on these top ones as there are on the actual treads themselves, but there is some. So I'm trying to layer up those things. Now I didn't bother painting some of these because they're going to be covered by a canvas. So that'll be coming up. I'm going to use various types of tissue and napkin to do that. So there's the tank in all its glory. Now the one thing I did do is went ahead and worked on the barrel. The end of the barrel was painted white. It was counter shaded. Top was left the tank's primary color. Bottom half was white. I used a primer gray, or primer white, basically. It really is. It's the Vallejo light gray that's used. They have in their primer line. It's not as stark white that way. And then just faded in the sides, just with some sloppy brush strokes, because these were wavy patterns on most of the fireflies, but on this particular photo, this looks more like it's been overbrushed a bit, so that it's not a nice crisp line, not even a crisp wavy line. So I tried to break it up and look a little bit more weathered between the two. So see if that doesn't get much clearer. There we go. See if we can zoom this in at all. Oh, too much. There we go. Okay. Now, what's interesting is they did mark the end of that barrel, or the camouflage, with a white ring over the top. Now, this was supposed to be roughly the length of where the old 75 was. So by putting the 75 on, you kind of figure out where the end of the gun is, and then just do the same here, and you kind of find out how far forward to bring it. It's not an exact science. It does appear that there's a set distance it's supposed to be, but it doesn't seem to always be applied exactly the same. But just roughly right over the bow of the tank itself before you get to the actual track links. So that's where I tried to put it. Alright, so that's where I'm at now. I do like this a lot better. It's really starting to come together. It's already usable on the tabletop, and I have already engaged in combat. So this is seen action on the table already. Now the next step really is trying to figure out how to do the canvas. That's the next piece. I know how I'm going to approach it. I need to find the right material. I've got a few options. It's just a matter of testing it through. I've tested one of them already, and it looks pretty good, but I don't want to settle for something that looks pretty good. I want to make sure I've got the right one. All right. So, quick update. That's all there really has been to this particular model. I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for sticking with me on this, and I'll see you in the next video. All right. Bye-bye.